Let's go to the Daily Mirror, Olivia, because they're the paper that, of course, originally broke the story about the Downing Street Christmas party, and they've made a lot of running, and there's huge coverage. I mean, 6 or 7 pages of coverage in the Mirror, and their headline is "Plan B for us, Plan lie for him," quoting Keir Starmer, really, from that Commons exchange. Generally, this is a pretty horrific set of front pages for the Prime Minister and the government, isn't it?
It is. It's a horrific. I mean, you'd expect the Mirror, obviously, to be pretty critical, and I have to say it. I don't think it's the cleverest headline out there. But again, it does sort of encapsulate the mood in the country. I think there is a sort of growing feeling that we hear Keir Starmer saying over and over again that Boris Johnson is a liar, and I think normally it doesn't really cut through because some people expect politicians to be liars generally, or to kind of do their own spin on the truth. And with Boris Johnson, it sort of bakes in that he has this dramatic narrative way of sort of telling stories, and that the truth won't always quite come through. And I think people kind of accept that about him, rightly or wrongly. But I think now it is beginning to feel as though this is a Prime Minister who perhaps doesn't really have any grip on what's fact and what's fiction at all. The idea that he didn't know about this party, which quite clearly took place, seems a bit ridiculous. And the fact it now seems to be becoming clearer and clearer that there were other parties going on in and around Downing Street over November and December. And Boris Johnson clearly knew quite a big part of it, if not all of it. And I think people are going to start thinking, well, how can he just be so barefaced about this? Does he just take us for fools? That is the general feeling.
Well, speaking of the other parties, Jerry, the Times have got a story saying the Tories held a second raucous party, or a raucous second party. I suppose this is sort of fertile ground for journalists who want to get digging to find out more and more about these various alleged parties that there were in Downing Street.
Yeah, absolutely. And between us being on at 10:30 and coming back, I did a little tally, and I think there are 6 alleged gatherings or parties that have been reported on now throughout November and December. So they are stacking up. Of course, we don't know if those all did or did not take place. Some of them have been admitted to, some haven't. But it does seem to be a pattern forming. And yes, this one that's on the front of the Times is at the Conservative Party headquarters, organised by Sean Bailey's campaign, who was the Conservative candidate for London Mayor, and it has been admitted to. People have been disciplined, but I'm sure there will be more digging going on to see if any more took place.
Olivia, do you get the sense there might be more to come out on this story, and that is what the government will be pretty nervous of? Either descriptions of parties or facts about parties, or even more pictures of parties.
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of the problem there is that Boris Johnson is quite a lonely figure in Parliament. He doesn't have a huge amount of allies. He's not particularly a Commons person. He's very popular with the public, but he doesn't have that many close friends. And I think now the problem is that he's alienated a lot of different factions. Allister Heath has actually written about this in the Telegraph tomorrow, and it's really worth a read. But it goes through sort of the anti-lockdowners are furious with him because of this new set of restrictions. Obviously, the people who are pro-lockdown are furious with him for breaking all of the rules last year. The Brexiteers don't really need him anymore, apart from the Northern Ireland Protocol issues. He's basically delivered a clean Brexit, so they've got no loyalty to him. The Thatcherites feel like he's been that he hasn't been very fiscally responsible. The Red Wall people don't really feel like this plan for levelling up has really come to anything. So you've got a lot of angry people in Parliament and not many allies around the Prime Minister. So the fact that they couldn't even get someone on the radio this morning to defend the government line sort of says it all. So I think if there are more things about to come out, then Boris Johnson is cutting a very lonely figure, and it's going to be a difficult few days and weeks for him.
Jerry, let's go to the Telegraph, which is normally quite loyal to the Prime Minister, but they've got various stories about his current problematic situation. But the main story is don't go to work, do go to parties, not Downing Street parties, but general parties. Boris Johnson last night telling millions of people to work from home next week, but they could still attend office Christmas parties. That's the Telegraph story. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of getting that headline printed up on a T-shirt, actually. But it does kind of encapsulate the kind of confusing advice that I think we've heard this afternoon of, work from home if you can from next week. But when Boris Johnson was asked if work Christmas parties could still go ahead, or nativity plays and things like that, he said, yes, there's no real reason why they can't, which has of course left people thinking, well, why can I go to, maybe a packed bar for my work Christmas party, but my half-empty office is apparently unsafe. So it is a little bit confusing for people.